Hello, everyone, and welcome to Casual Experts Only, now part of the Cultured Nerd Podcast Network. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Spider-Verse movies, Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse, kind of just getting in depth with, all the cool stuff that's in them and some of the themes that are presented in those movies. And we're also going to be talking about some news, some new sexual assault allegations, and some Marvel films that have been moved around, and lots of other stuff. So, yeah, we'll be tackling quite a few things today, so stick around. Today, I am joined by my friend Caleb.
How's it going?
No Luke today. Apparently, on top of all this fun Jonathan Majors stuff, did you hear about Tenoch Huerta, the guy who played Namor?
I did hear about that. I didn't really read a whole bunch about it, but I just saw that he denies him.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah. So this is according to avclub.com. Apparently, a musician and activist named Maria Elena Rios referred to Huerta as a violator and sexual predator and accused him of assaulting her. This was on a tweet. She tweeted this. It was in Spanish, so obviously somebody translated it, but everyone's kind of saying the same thing. And yeah, so basically she accused him of assaulting her, and saying it was very difficult to talk about it. Talk about this, about someone who is loved in the world for playing a character in a movie like him. And I think a couple days ago, so I think like the day after or something, Huerta's publicist shared this statement: "A false and completely unsubstantiated accusation about me has spread like wildfire, and I cannot let it go unchallenged any longer. About a year ago, I dated Elena for several months. It was entirely consensual at all times, as countless others can attest, and throughout it was a loving, warm, and mutually supportive relationship. After it ended, however, Elena began to misrepresent our interactions both privately and in front of groups of mutual friends. As a result, a few months ago, I engaged a legal team to commence the appropriate actions to protect my reputation and refute these irresponsible and false accusations that cause great prejudice and damage. Although I am by no means perfect, I know that these allegations are simply untrue, and while I will always work to improve myself, I need to contest claims that are both false and offensive. I'm deeply grateful to my family and the people who have supported me, and greatly appreciate everyone who is willing to look at the facts and reflect before rushing to an untrue and unjust conclusion." So, that is his statement. I hesitate to, say anything beyond that, really, be like, oh, well, I believe her, or I believe him, I mean, at this point, it's pretty much, his statement definitely seems to give more detail than her accusation did, but other than that, it's really hard to tell. I mean, usually when this happens and the guy did do something messed up, usually other people start coming out and speaking out. So I guess we'll see if any of if that happens. But, yeah. Definitely. But yeah, just the fact that like what he said, I'll be honest, his statement does sound convincing, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. It's just hard to tell. There's no real evidence. It's kind of just a he said, she said kind of thing,
Yeah, it was very strong worded.
Mm-hmm.
I feel I usually don't take a side in this until it's settled in court.
Right.
But
I mean,
I agree that usually people, scumbags like that, are more than just one-time offenders.
Right. So, I mean, like with, things are still in development with Jonathan Majors, but pretty soon after the initial incident, several other women kind of came forward and started cooperating with the district attorney's office, So I guess we'll see what happens with this, if it's just more of a personal dispute, or if it, there's some truth to it. I don't know. I guess we'll see going forward. But it is getting kind of tiring. Like every other week, there's more bad news about this kind of stuff. But
It's really just sad to see.
yeah, seriously. But yeah, some more, I mean, kind of sad news. I don't know. Several Marvel films have been delayed, seemingly because of the writer strike going on. Which I'll be honest, like I'm not happy things are getting delayed, but at the same time, I would rather them be delayed, than than the studios trying to work on them during the writer strike and then them just turning out like really crappy. I would rather them delay the projects and have a good product at the end than, just trying to like kind of stitch stuff together that very rarely turns out well.
I 100% agree. It's very sad to see some of these movies I'm really looking forward to, where I have
Mm-hmm.
to wait even longer now. But I'd much
Sure.
rather have a higher quality project.
Yeah, right. Like especially like with Blade and Thunderbolts, because those movies seem to be
Mm-hmm.
going through a lot of changes, and I'd rather wait and then
Mm-hmm.
make a good movie than them go forward and make some shit.
Didn't Deadpool 3 actually get moved up a few months?
Yes, because that's the only one that's currently still being worked on because they finished the script. There are just some
Okay.
weird stipulations where like Ryan Reynolds can't really improvise on set because he's a writer and he's part of the uh, WGA, the Writers Guild. So
Okay.
technically, it kind of falls in like the gray area of like he's technically writing if he improvises and they use it. So um, but other than that, they're still filming and everything. So Deadpool 3 did get moved up from November 8th to May 3rd, which honestly, I'm actually happy about this because Deadpool 3 is one of my most anticipated Marvel movies in the
Oh,
next
100%.
couple years, so it got moved up like over what, like 6 months, I think. So,
Yeah, something about that.
yeah, so actually it's probably like, yeah, about 6 7 months. So yeah, that's pretty nice. But all the other movies, and speaking of Marvel movies, Captain America: New World Order got retitled Brave New World, which I mean, nobody really seems that happy about because New World Order is just a way cooler sounding name. Um, and it's based off of some stuff in the comics too, but yeah, so Captain America Brave New World is moving from May 3rd, 2024 to July 26th, 2024. So just a couple months, honestly. It's not a huge deal. Thunderbolts is being delayed until December 20th, 2024. Blade is delayed till February 15th, 2025. And Fantastic Four is moved to May 2nd, 2025. Now, I think the biggest kicker for me, I think, is the two Avengers films, which are like really being, delayed because they were both initially
Hmm.
supposed to come out in like 2025, I think. And now they're a year and 2 years after that. So Avengers Kang Dynasty is now being released on May 2nd, 2025. Oh, no, sorry, May 1st, 2026. So that got delayed like a whole year. And then Avengers Secret Wars is now coming out on May 7th, 2027, which kind of sucks. I don't want to have to wait, another. Well, I mean, to be fair, it's only like 4 years from now, I guess.
Yeah.
But 2027 sounds like a long ways away.
I feel like part of that's got to be the part of the whole
Yeah,
Jonathan
Jonathan
Majors
Majors
thing,
thing. Yeah,
because if
probably.
it's not really looking too good for him right now,
No.
and if they do have to find another actor,
Yeah, it's
or
it's gonna
something.
it's gonna take a lot of retooling, or if they have to like shy away from using Kang as a villain, as the main villain.
Hmm.
Yeah, it could definitely take some major rewriting and retooling and like just a lot of change of plans. So, yeah, I think you're right about that. And I think, yeah, the Avatar films got moved around too. Like I really couldn't care less about those movies to be honest. But
I agree.
let's see. Eh, So Avatar 3 has shifted to December 19th, 2025. Avatar 4 is December 21st, 2029. Jesus Christ. And Avatar 5 is December 19th, 2031. Like, Jesus, they're planning this movie out to 2031. Like, holy hell. Imagine if they're all just like rehashes, like very similar story. He just like changes the environment. Like the second one's water, the third one's fire, the fourth one's like, I don't know.
Well,
Like
that's true though. Is that isn't the third one going to be like some sort of fire tribe?
that's what James Cameron said. Yeah. So
That's ridiculous.
yeah, I know, but I kind of think it's insane that they're planning these movies out till 2031. Like I know the first two movies did really well, but is there really enough of a story for a 5-movie franchise that spans till 2031? Like, holy hell. But
Only
yeah,
time will tell.
yeah, I guess so. Some sad news about a passing of a comic icon. John Romita Sr. died just, I think, today or yesterday. He's been an artist and just since like I don't know how long, since like the 50s, I think. And he helped bring like Spider-Man, Wolverine, a bunch of other characters to life. He was just like super influential at Marvel, especially. But yeah, he was 93 years old. Yeah, that's always sad though when somebody passes. So some video games to talk about. The Xbox showcase happened recently. I'm not gonna go over everything, but I'm just gonna talk about the standouts. Like for me, I think probably the biggest thing is Star Wars Outlaws, a new open world Star Wars game, which seems really really cool. We don't know. There was a trailer released for it, a cinematic trailer. We don't know exactly when it's coming out, except that it's coming out in 2024, next year, and it is going to be playable on PlayStation 5, PC, and Xbox. So it's not an Xbox exclusive, but it looks really cool. And I heard rumors and talk about this huge, expansive, like sandbox Star Wars game coming out, and I guess this is what people have been talking about. But yeah, as a Star Wars game fan, definitely looking forward to this. I hope it's good. And I hope it's better open world than the Jedi games. Like, not that they're bad, but the open world isn't all that impressive. I mean, I haven't played the second one yet. Is the open world a little better? Is the world exploration better?
Yeah, because you can tame different animals, which help you get around a lot faster and reach places a lot easier. But because of that, the worlds are I've only made it to the first world, Kobo, and that world is a lot bigger than a lot of the other ones you come across in the first game.
Gotcha. Interesting. But yeah, this seems to be like the open world format is going to be a big aspect of the game, and you play as a character named Kay Vess. I'll be honest, I was kind of hoping for like a more of a role playing like RPG, you know, where you can like
I agree,
kind of like the Old Republic, like the Knights of the Old Republic games, where you can choose customize your character and stuff. But this should still be pretty cool, I think.
Oh, without a doubt. But I do really wish you could like create your own character and like you said, choose your own path.
Yeah. As for the other stuff that they announced at the Xbox Showcase, which that wasn't technically announced at Xbox Showcase, I think it was at Ubisoft Forward, but I'm pretty sure they mentioned it at the Xbox Showcase. But there really weren't a whole lot of like they did talk about some exclusives for Xbox, but none of them look that interesting. Like there's Forza Motorsport, they're doing another one of those. This game called Avowed. Let's see, what's it called? 33 Immortals. To me, the only Xbox exclusive that looks interesting to me is Starfield, the new Bethesda game, which is coming out on September 6th, which looks really cool. The only thing is with Bethesda, they have a lot of buggy launches, so I think a lot of people are going to be waiting to get it, not getting it opening or not getting it on, the opening day, weekend, whatever. Which I'm probably going to wait too, just to see if it's really buggy on launch. I mean, I usually wait to get games anyway, because they're freaking expensive nowadays, but, yeah, but it looks super cool. It looks like it looks like Elder Scrolls in space, which makes sense.
The ship customization looks absolutely stunning.
Yeah, it does. It just like the whole thing. It just looks great, and I love RPG type like open world sandbox games like that. So I think I'm really going to enjoy that. The other thing I thought was noteworthy is there's a new expansion for Cyberpunk 2077 coming out called Phantom Liberty. And it seems like
Idris Elba.
Yeah, Idris Elba, and they're really adding more to this story, which is kind of interesting because if you've played the game all the way through, there is like a definitive ending but you can go back and play side missions, but it seems like all the expansions are taking place before that ending. So that's kind of interesting, but it seems like this expansion is actually going to add a new ending, which could be interesting. But this comes out on September 26th, 2023, and it's going to be available like on all the platforms that Cyberpunk is, so PC, PlayStation, and Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's pretty much all the game stuff really that I wanted to talk about. There's a lot of other stuff, but none of it really, interests me that much. I'm not like so into gaming that I, have to know every bit of gaming news. I think there is an expansion for Fallout 76, but I don't play that, so it doesn't really matter too much. But yeah, that's. Oh wait, no, I was gonna say that's all the news, but there is something I've been meaning to mention since like the last couple episodes. I just kept forgetting, but apparently the rumored cast for the Fantastic Four. This is supposedly leaked by My Time to Shine Hello, who's a scooper. Kind of like most scoopers, very hit or miss whether their scoops are reliable. But according to this scooper, the cast is going to be Adam Driver as Mr. Fantastic, Margot Robbie as Invisible Woman, Paul Mescal as the Human Torch, and Daveed Diggs as the Thing. But there's been no official confirmation about this or anything. So, but yeah, what do you think about that cast?
I think Adam Driver and Margot Robbie are going to be able to land the characteristics of Reed Richards and Sue Storm perfectly.
Yeah.
I don't know too much about the other two actors, but I am super excited to see what they have to offer.
Yeah, like I feel like I don't think I would necessarily have picked any of them myself, besides Margot Robbie, because she's just kind of a perfect choice. But
I agree.
But I can definitely see all the other three actors playing the roles well. Like Adam Driver would be cool. And like he's a great actor, and I'm sure he could pull it off. Like the only thing is he usually looks kind of goofy with short hair. So I don't know if they're gonna like keep his long hair. I mean, he has gotten older, so he might not look as goofy anymore. I guess we'll see. And then Paul Mescal, I've only seen him in like dramas. But he's ever since he was in After Sun, a Oscar-nominated movie. It's a smaller indie movie, but he's been offered like a bunch of roles since then. Like he's going to be in the Gladiator sequel that's coming out soon.
I saw that.
Yeah, he's landed quite a few roles. So I mean, he has really good acting chops. I just haven't seen him do anything outside of the more dramatic role. So I don't know how well he can pull off kind of the sarcastic and kind of childish Johnny Storm attitude. But I guess we'll see. I mean, this is definitely a good cast if it's true. Like we're talking about it as if it's true. There's been no official confirmation. Marvel's been keeping a tight lid on things, so yeah. I guess we'll see there. Speaking of casting, I also forgot to mention that there's been a lot of rumors going around about the Superman Legacy cast, like who's going to be cast in that as Superman. But it seems like a lot of people are testing, and it seems like the media is just picking up like every time somebody like tests for something or like sends in a audition tape, they're acting like, oh, they're a top contender, So it's really it's really too early to say who's like even coming close to getting this role, but they are, according to James Gunn, they are actively screen testing people. Seems like. Like the name, like Nicholas Holt's name has been thrown around a lot. First as Superman, then as Lex Luthor, and then Superman again. And this guy, what's his name? Like David Corenswet has been through. He's been like fan cast for
so long,
like the last like 5-6 years. So that kind of makes me hesitant to think like is he really in the running, or people just kind of like want that, and so the media is running with it. And even James Gunn himself, he's said it like on Twitter, but also in a recent podcast he was on. He's basically been saying like a lot of the reports aren't true. a lot of the journalists just kind of talk to talent agencies, and the agencies are pretty much like, well, we suggested that our client go up for the role, and then the media is like, oh well, he's a top contender, stuff like that. So it's just like, I would take any sort of media reports about this casting with a grain of salt at this point. um yeah, speaking of James Gunn, last thing news related. Apparently, he said that Blue Beetle is going to be the first DCU character, but Superman Legacy is still the first DCU movie. I mean, I think that just means because that's the first one he's actively working on. Blue Beetle was made before he came on board. But if Blue Beetle is the first DCU character, does that mean that this version of the character is going to carry on into, the future DCU movies, or how's that going to work?
I think a lot of it's going to depend on how the
Yeah,
movie
Blue
performs.
Beetle movie does. Yeah, right. Exactly. Which, yeah, I have no idea, honestly, how well it's going to perform, because I feel like, DC is definitely behind with general audiences, what can compared to Marvel, so it's hard to
Mhm.
tell if people are going to be interested enough to go see a movie about a character they don't know anything about. I mean, but the trailer looks good, and Jolo Meriduena, like, he's got a pretty strong fan base from Cobra Kai, so I don't know. I guess we'll see. But I mean, I really love Blue Beetle. I really love that suit they made.
Mhm.
It looks like the movie looks cool, and I think that actor, like, is perfect for the role. So I kind of hope that he goes forward in the new DCU. However they decide to do that, I would definitely be on board for that. But yeah, let's talk Spider-Man. So I guess we're not gonna spend too much time on the first one, but just the fact that you know it's become such a huge freaking movie that, it didn't perform super well at the box office apparently, but like, just the past few years, like, all the fans online are just like, oh, it's the best Spider-Man movie, best comic book movie, whatever, so yeah, what are your general thoughts on that movie? I know you like it a lot, don't you?
Oh yeah, 100%. I don't think Across the Spider Verse is as good as Into the Spider Verse.
Hmm.
I think Across the first half focuses a little too much on character development and
Hmm.
sets up arcs, which is good. I just think it drags a little bit and gets a little
Hmm.
boring. But the second half and the ending completely blew me away and
Yeah,
gave me everything that I wanted in that movie, pretty much.
right. Yeah, I kind of think I like the second one better. I don't know, like the first one, it's really hard because they are different.
Hmm.
I think for me, the second one just kind of did everything the first one did, just more. More like, because the first one had great development for Miles,
Hmm.
great, Spider Verse stuff. Like, there's definitely stuff to nitpick with the first one. I don't love it as much as some people do. Like, some people act like it's the second coming of Christ or something. And like, don't get me wrong, like, it's great, but it's not. I wouldn't say it's like the best movie ever, even the best comic book movie, really. But I mean, I am a little bit different from other people. I don't really get as hyped for animated movies as I do for live action. I feel like it's easier for me to get into live action because it feels more real, because it's real actors being filmed. Whereas animation, like, I do get into it, but it doesn't feel as real, because it's animation. It's obviously not supposed to look super real to life. So it's just kind of a different medium, you know, and it's
I
hard for me
agree.
to compare them.
And I feel like one of the ways they tried to uh I'm sorry, I'm trying to think of the word here, deal with that
Hmm.
is by going such a different route with the
Yeah,
animation.
which I
Because Into
think
the
was a good
Spider
idea.
Verse, exactly, Into the Spider Verse totally changed the game.
Hmm.
And like I feel like the new
Absolutely, yeah.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie takes a lot of
Yes,
inspiration from it,
I was
and
thinking
I
that
feel
too.
like a lot of animated movies now are taking inspiration in that because every
Yes,
animated movie for so long was just looking the same.
yes, yeah.
And I'm
Especially
so
like all
happy.
the 3D animation ones, like
I
Pixar and
know.
DreamWorks.
Yep. 100%. Very circular and just
Uh huh.
bright.
Yeah, yeah, and just kind of trying to be like kind of realistic, but not really, whereas Spider-Verse just doubled down in like to trying to make it look like a comic book and
Hmm.
look hand drawn. They weren't, like it was still 3D animation, but it still kind of looked like it was printed on a page most of the time. And they obviously just had lots of fun with it and had so many great ideas of how to make it look really unique. And they really just did a lot of stuff you can only do in animation, which was like, why not? Oh, yeah, that's awesome. And I think, like you said, other movies have taken inspiration from that. Like I just recently saw the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles trailer, and I was like, oh, this looks a lot like Spider Verse. And
Hmm.
I think Puss in Boots: The Last Wish did that as
Oh
well.
yes, yes.
And I really like it because like I think at first my brain is like, why doesn't this look more true to life? But then as I get into it, I'm like, this is really cool and like it should be what most animated movies should be. I think that they should look,
Hmm.
because it's like you're not gonna watch unless it's like a cinematic in a video game. You're not gonna watch this and be like, like how realistic does this look? Like as
Exactly.
long as the animation looks great, and you should be able to just have fun with the animation medium.
And it should fit the tone
Hmm.
that is the movie as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I just loved in the first Spider-Verse movie how there were like little like they showed the text a lot of like what was happening. Like Peter was typing on a keyboard and it said there was text on the screen that said clickety clack clack, but like it looked like
Oh yes.
it looked like it was written in like a comic book text, stuff like that, but it's very cool.
Or
Um,
whenever Spider-Man Noir punched someone.
yeah, oh yeah, and that was cool too. The way they like showed his, even though it was a brief flashback when they showed his universe, the whole
Hmm.
black and white and the way he was black and white, like even in Miles's universe.
Hmm.
I think and that's gonna be nitpicky, so nobody hate me or anything. I only really have like a few issues with the movie, but I do have some issues. It's not like a flawless movie because no movie really is. But I think for me the big thing I'm just not a huge fan of are some of the villains and one or two of the spider people that they picked. Like I feel like they could have picked way cooler Spider-Verse characters
Oh, I
than
agree,
Penny Parker.
100%.
Like the only ones
I
that I
agree.
was like really like on board with were Spider-Man Noir and Spider-Gwen. Well, like, and obviously the original, well not the original, but
Peter
Peter
B.
B.
Parker.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
have to have Peter Parker, like that was a very good dynamic. But like I like I don't know why they picked Spider or whatever Penny Parker. That was kind of like I hadn't heard of her before the movie, but like she is in the comics, but it's very brief. Like it's not that I dislike her character. It's just I feel like they could have like I feel like Scarlet Spider would have been super cool to
I
have in
would
the
have much
first
rather have
one.
had him had in the first one, and
Hmm.
that's one of the other things that bother me about the second one is how he's kind of just like a joke. And I
Yeah,
understand that he's kind of like that angsty person in the comics,
yeah,
but it's on such more of a serious tone.
yes,
And,
yeah.
and the only reason I even laughed at it is because Andy Samberg really just cracks me up. I
Well,
think he's great.
right, like for me, I thought it was funny. I liked that they were kind of poking fun at like the '90s like angsty comic
Yeah,
tone.
yeah,
But like that would have been great if they had also had him do stuff, but he didn't
yeah.
really do anything. Like if he had a couple badass scenes, I would have been like, "Oh, this is perfect. Like it's funny, it's fun, and he's also badass." But instead, he was just a joke.
I think
Um,
they were really setting him up for the third one, Beyond the Spider
I hope
Verse.
so. Like I hope he gets his time to shine in the third one because I love Ben Riley. I love Scarlet Spider. So I really hope that he gets to do more in the third one. But like he was funny. It's just I wish he had more to do.
Mhm.
Um, kind of like with Spider Ham. Like he's great. He's funny, but he's basically just for comedic relief. Um, I don't know. Like I just kind of wish they had chosen some cooler Spider-Man, I guess, or Spider people for the first one.
Or even
Uh
Kane Parker. I think
oh my
he's
gosh.
the other clone. I also
Kane.
think he's very great.
Yeah, like feel like there was like too many like comic relief characters
Yeah,
and not enough like cool spider characters, you know.
but
And
and that's something I rather liked about Across rather than Into the Spider
yeah.
Verse because it was so much more mature.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. We'll get to that in a minute. But I think my only other critique with the first one is that I mean, and this is more of a personal thing, but I don't really like a lot of the character like designs for the villains. Like I think Kingpin is just kind of comically big. Like I feel like you could have still done Kingpin and not made him look like just like a freaking caricature.
Square.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like it looks ridiculous. Like he's as huge as like a semi truck trailer with a little head. You know, it's
yeah, I
like
agree.
I don't know. It's a little off-putting to me, and um, I don't care for some of the like I'm not a huge fan of Doctor. Like I know this is all like alternate universe stuff, so I'm not like it's not like the comics, but I'm just not a huge fan of that. Like I feel like they could have done more interesting things. Like I'm not a huge fan of Doctor Octopus, and not really
Oh,
because she's gender swapped. It's just like I don't like the weird inflatable tentacles.
that's
Um,
fair.
I like I think she's okay, I guess, but this doesn't like I don't know. I feel like they could have made her more like more of a Doctor Octopus character. It was basically just like Catherine Hahn with
Yeah,
tentacles, you
I,
know?
I I I do like her. I think that she's very
Yeah,
fun and interesting.
yeah, right.
But I kind of would like someone a bit more menacing.
Right, exactly. And like, you know, she switched pretty well between evil and like whatever, but it's just I don't know. I didn't care for all the decisions with her, and also like I thought Scorpion's design was kind of weird and random.
Yeah, that took me by surprise.
Like he's
Took me to say who he was.
literally a scorpion like with scorpion legs, and for some reason is like Mexican or something. That was weird. I don't really get some of the character design choices. Like I feel like they just changed it for the sake of changing stuff, you know.
Hmm.
But that being said, that's, you know, like I said, it's pretty nitpicky stuff. Like the first one is an excellent movie. Um,
Hmm.
and I will say it is very tight. Like you mentioned, the second one drags a bit. For me, I think it dragged less the second time I saw it, because I knew, you know, like what parts were going to be slow and what weren't. But I do think the first one's tighter. You know, it's a little under. It's about 2 hours, but it really utilizes every second very well, I think.
I agree.
I think I there I feel like there could have been more time to maybe develop some characters like Spider-Man Noir more, you know. I feel like they came into the movie really late and then didn't really get much development. They were just sort of there to serve the story and then leave, you know, which I think was their purpose, but I kind of would, you know, being a Spider-Man Noir fan, I would have liked to see more, you know.
Well, I mean, we are getting the show.
Right, exactly.
We are getting the show.
Which is not clear if if that's connected or not. To, you know, there's been rumors going around that Nicolas Cage might sign on to be Spider-Man Noir. So in that case, it would make sense if they're connected. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say at this point. But I think what was really good about the first movie, I think though, was just seeing Miles's like hero journey, you know?
Oh, 100%.
And I think that they did such a good job that he just kind of instantly became a really beloved Spider-Man character, you know, not just among fans, like Spider-Man fans, but among the general audiences, you know. I think they did a really good job making him a compelling and relatable character, but not making him too like goofy or too stoic or too anything really, you know.
I think he's like a perfect teenage
Yeah.
hero.
Yeah, and I think that they did such a good job, like, kind of realizing everybody knows who the frick Peter Parker is at this point. You know,
Hmm.
they had, like, the recaps, but those were more for fun and for the rest of the characters, you know? They didn't bother trying to, like, make a whole Peter Parker movie before making a Miles movie. They just jumped right into Miles. I think that was a good decision. Um,
I was I was
yeah.
pretty sad to hear that they only want to do the 3 movies.
Yeah, I mean, I have mixed feelings because I feel like, on the one hand, like, yeah, I could watch more of this stuff for forever. On the other hand, I think, too much of a good thing, like at a certain point, like
I agree.
where do we when do we stop having quality and just start getting quantity?
I feel like there could maybe be four,
Sure.
but I feel like if the third just ends in
Well,
such a perfect, great way, I will have no complaints about not getting another movie.
right, and I feel like, if they just keep building stuff up, because like the second one was like huge, and I'm sure the third
Hmm.
one's going to be insanely huge. Like, where do you go from that? Like, do you try and top
Yeah.
it, or do you like? I feel like it would make sense to make a fourth one if they just like went the other direction and we're like, well, we're not going to try and do a crazy thing. We're going to be doing like a more self-contained, like street level story for Miles. But
Hmm.
would people like that after those huge, Spider-Verse movies? I don't know. I guess
That's true.
I guess it's too early to say because we haven't seen the third one yet.
Hmm.
But yeah, let's talk about the second one. So we already did a little bit. I really liked in this like that it wasn't just Miles as, well, after the first one he just knows what he's doing all the time now. Like, he definitely is, getting better at being Spider-Man, but he's still like a 15-year-old kid who's still juggling everything with life, and his parents are on his ass for stuff, and he's still trying to figure stuff out. I think I like that they did that and didn't just kind of on the one hand, it is a bit played out having Spider-Man, whether it's Peter Parker or Miles, like always be miserable, but at the same time it's a little unrealistic when movies just have, oh, in the sequel they're just perfect now after having one movie of development.
Hmm. I think they
But
do a very good job of capturing it.
yeah, but dude, the freaking animation in the second one though, I think
And the
that
fact that it's for like every character has their own style.
yes,
Like I
yes,
just saw that Spider Punk's like each body part
yes.
was animated at a different frame rate.
It's insane, dude. And they had to like the animators actually took videos of themselves for reference to like see how he moved, to make it easier. Like it's just insane. Like the amount of work and effort they put to make it so like unique. Like every single, like I've seen people say like every single frame is like a mural or like, a computer like lock screen background or something, and like yeah,
Oh yeah.
it's so true. It's like almost every panel, every frame looks like it's from a comic book page. It's
Mhm.
they really did a good job with that. Having so many different animation styles. There were definitely some I preferred over others. Like I wasn't a huge fan of Spider Punk at first, because his like animation style was so like chaotic.
Mhm.
It kind of got hard to get, but I think the second time I watched it, I was like really into it.
For me, it was mostly just when his mask was off.
Oh, yeah, that's fair. Yeah, oh, dude, the freaking Spot, dude.
Oh man, the
I
way
was not
they
expecting that, like him to be as like powerful and badass and crazy as he was.
he was so cool, dude.
Oh,
Like he was so goofy. And then when
yeah,
he started to give like his "I
mm-hmm,
created you" spiel to Miles,
yeah,
and how he just like flipped that switch.
yeah.
Oh man, that was oh, my jaw
That's
dropped.
that's such a good example of like being able to make a character like funny and kind of goofy, but also just making them like a really serious and badass character.
Because the Spot was literally like his only other like show appearance was in the 90s, and he
Yeah,
was just some one-off
yeah,
goofy ass character,
a
and then they
villain of
took
the
him
week.
and made him 10, 20 times
Yes,
better.
yeah. So when they released some like clips and stuff showing Spot, like I think they released that clip online before the movie came out of Spot trying to rob that ATM machine. Um, I was like, okay, so he's just gonna be kind of like an initial little villain for Miles to fight at the beginning. But then they they were like, nope, he's gonna be the main freaking like he's gonna be like a freaking destroyer of the whole universe, the whole multiverse. And I didn't see that coming, but like as I was watching the movie, I'm like, yeah, this makes total sense because like I kind of forgot going into it, but watching the movie, I was thinking like, oh yeah, his spots are really just like portals to other dimensions. So another universe. So I was like, okay, yeah, that actually makes sense to have Spot be the big multiversal villain, you know?
Hmm.
And apparently the writers didn't want to use Spot at first. I think it was Avi Arad, who has been like a producer for Marvel stuff for like forever. Apparently, it was his idea to use Spot, and they weren't like receptive at first. But I think eventually they came around, and I'm really glad they did because he's perfect.
I agree.
I think his powers are just and like I'm glad like because otherwise I feel like the only real villain would be like Miguel, and I don't really want him to be a villain. You know, I think
I
he
know.
works as like a foil to Miles in this movie, but I hope he kind of comes around by the second one. You know, because
I think
he,
after he realizes Miles can actually save the day is when he'll come around.
mm, yeah, I think you're right. Which yeah, let's talk about kind of the I don't know. It's kind of the overarching theme of the movie, which it kind of took me two times to really think about it. But really, the whole like starting from like when we first see Miles to like the end, um, there's people basically just trying to like map out and control his life all the way through, and like he's trying to do what's right, but it's like every time he does anything, it's like he's stepping outside of the boundaries of what is supposed to happen in his life. Like even starting with that counselor at his school, she even she like said she's supposed to condense a kid's universe to that one paper and one piece of paper, and by the end of their meeting she said like, great, now we have it, now stick to the script you know and
Yeah.
and so he was getting that from his school, from his parents, and then on a huge grand scale once he went to the Spider whatever, I forget what they called it, but that place in Nueva York where all of the Spider people are. They basically told him like, yeah, there's like this huge overarching script for all Spider people, and like you kind of have to follow it. And I guess his whole arc in this movie was going like, no, I'm gonna forge my own path, and it might seem like, and like so, and I'm kind of curious to see where this goes. Like, is is this going to be like, yeah, he's right for doing that? Because like I feel like that's where they're going to go. I doubt the message of the main message of this is going to be like, nope, Miles should have conformed. That doesn't seem like a very
Yeah.
Hollywood thing. But at the same time, it's like it is interesting. Like where are they going to go with this? Are they going to continue this in the third movie and show like he was right to be basically non-conformist and choose his own path, and not necessarily just listen to everyone else just because they said so, kind of thing? Or was Miguel right? Is he gonna create a huge anomaly or what, or destroy his universe if he saves his dad? you know well
I really feel like there's no way Miles' dad dies.
yeah, I
And
mean,
I feel like with the way the movie ended,
mhm.
we're going to figure that out in, I'd say, the first 30 to 40 minutes of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest of it's going to be them trying to not destroy Miles' universe.
Mm, yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, and that's a thing too that I didn't notice until I saw it a second time. Was I'm trying to think, but I don't think we've really seen at this point. No other universe has actually been destroyed by someone breaking canon.
Besides, well, Miguel's when he committed identity theft.
Right, but that's different because he literally went into a world he's not supposed to be in. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not like he stopped his family from dying. He went and replaced a Miguel that already died. So I feel like that's a little different than stopping somebody from being killed. Going into a universe you're not supposed to be in and taking over that version of you's life, I think, is a little different. The only other time we saw canon being broken was in Spider-Man India's universe, but it's not clear whether that was really because of the canon event or the Spot.
Mm.
because when Miguel and Miles were talking about it, Miguel said like, "Look what you did by breaking the canon event, yada yada," and Miles said like, "No, that wasn't me. That was Spot." So Miles thought it was Spot that caused that huge, you know, uh, hole to open up in the middle of what was it called, like Mubatten or whatever.
I think yeah, something like
Whereas
that.
Miguel thought it was because he broke canon. So I'm kind of wondering if there's going to be like a twist and be like, it's okay to break canon, like like it's not actually like it's actually going to be like, Miguel was kind of like a one off because he took over that one, you know, other Miguel's spot. Like it's not really like canon events. Like maybe like the canon events aren't going to be as like hard and fast as Miguel thinks they are, and it turns out like it was Spot that caused Spider-Man India's world to start to be destroyed. I don't know, I'm kind of curious where they go with it, whether they're going to like be like, oh yeah, canon events, if Miles breaking a canon event is going to cause as big of a ripple as Miguel thinks it is.
Well, when that giant hole appeared in Mbaten,
Mm-hmm.
Miguel said they can contain it if they're lucky.
Yeah.
And the only other canon event that we know that has been broken that ended up being fixed was what happened in No Way Home. And that whole thing honestly makes me have a lot of questions. I hope they explain.
Yeah.
Like why weren't any of the villains or Toby or Andrew experiencing glitching when they were in Tom's universe?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's just something they need to explain a little bit. Because
Yeah.
like we know that they're a part of it. We know where they're a part of the Spider-Man multiverse.
Right, which I think is just another thing where they are trying to connect everything, but there are some things that were obviously just not meant to be connected because the same people didn't work on it. Like they had some of the same producers, but obviously very different people wrote and directed the Spider-Verse movies versus, the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they weren't necessarily supposed to be connected, but now the Spider-Verse movies are kind of retroactively trying to kind of connect them. So yeah, I have no idea whether they're gonna actually try and actually explain that or not. Knowing movies and everything, they're probably just going to not explain that. But like you said, I kind of hope they do. But like it seems like the live action Spider-Verse stuff is just all over the place because No Way Home, that like the rules that were in that don't seem to apply. Like the same ones that were in Spider-Verse don't apply to that movie. And then there was that really stupid end credit scene in Morbius where where Michael Keaton's Vulture just randomly gets transported to Morbius's. Yeah, and it's like it's like the most half-assed attempt to connect the two movies. It's like what?
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess we'll see going forward, but yeah, man, it's a lot to freaking process, and like the way they ended it with Prowler and Miles, and it seems like Miles is going to use his bioelectricity to get out of that jam, and like so yeah, do you think there's going to be like that version of Miles is going to be like a huge villain in the next movie?
A little bit. I feel like they're gonna convert him into a hero. I feel like that's something that's gonna happen.
Yeah,
and I feel like it's because of how much foreshadowing there just is in these movies.
Yeah.
Going back to the first one when Miles ties up Peter B. Parker and he says, "Keep an eye on the hands, not the mouth," and he slips out of the chains. I feel like that's exactly what Miles is gonna do.
That would be an awesome full circle moment. Yeah. I kind of agree. I think they're probably like at least for me, I think the best way to do it would be for them to kind of team up. Like especially considering Spot's still a major threat.
Exactly.
I think he might be able to convince him to like help him. So it would be like the two Mileses and then Gwen and all of, the spider people that she's enlisted. That would be pretty cool. But I feel like how are they gonna go bigger than the last movie? I feel like that there's got to be like just an insane like Endgame style battle scene with like every single Spider-Man, like all the Spider-Men that were in this movie plus more, just all in like one huge battle frame. Like one frame with of the battle where they're just all on the screen at the same time. I feel like that's the only way to try and top.
Well,
what
and
they've done.
when Miles was kind of having that vision of like what was going to happen, there is that
Hmm.
one shot of all those dead Spider-Men around the spot. So I feel like that's another glimpse into the future.
Oh, I
And
didn't even. I don't think I ever noticed that the dead
oh,
Spider-Man.
it showed, yeah. And
Oh,
one of my
interesting. I
going
missed
back to
that.
like Prowler Miles, one
Yeah.
of my biggest like theories is that like once because Miles knows that Miles has that hero and that good inside of him.
Hmm.
After that, he sees what good can come to having a Spider-Man in New York. That's what's gonna help him
Mm.
convert. Because that New York that they showed was, there was fires all over the place. It was
Hmm.
terrible.
Yeah.
No other Spider-Man's New York looks like that. And I feel like after
No.
he sees how nice everything is, that's really what's going to help him change.
Well, and what's interesting too is they never said if that Miles was a villain or not. Did they?
That is, well, they didn't, but I feel like it's only safe to assume.
I mean, I guess, but what if he's like a vigilante, like trying to do what he can, but he's obviously a more jaded version of what this Miles is. But what since there's no Spider-Man, what if he's trying to like be some sense of heroism, I guess, in this lawless universe.
That's fair. They just really gave him such a menacing vibe
Yeah, I
for
mean,
the reveal and whatnot.
true. I mean, he could just be like a really, he could just be more of like a Batman character, or it could just
Mhm.
be talking out of my ass. I don't know, but like, do you think Peter Parker exists in that universe?
Man,
And it,
that's
and if he does, he's got to be like he doesn't have his powers obviously. So what's that? What if he ends up meeting Miles too?
that's a fair point. Maybe in that universe, Miles is the teacher.
That would be interesting. That would actually be
I
kind
mean,
of that would be kind of cool though if they somehow like rectify that universe and give that universe a Spider-Man, whether it's Peter or Miles or some other person in that universe. That
that's
would be
true
kind of
because
interesting.
Miles Spider is dead. He can't be Spider-Man.
Right, exactly. So they would have to somehow try and recreate what happened or something. If there's like an
And
Alchemex there or something.
exactly, because the way Miles' fate changed when his spider sense is
Yeah,
going off in the first one, when it was
yeah.
green and purple, the blue and red.
Hmm.
It could be something like that. Fate can change, and Miles already proved that because he's an anomaly.
Well, yeah,
Uh,
and that's a thing too, because Miguel said he's like the first anomaly or whatever, but his
mhm.
universe hasn't broken apart. Like just like anomalies don't seem, I don't know, like they seem to capture anomalies because they cause damage to their universe, but Miles has been in his universe for like a year now, and he hasn't caused any anomalies, or any damage to his universe, has he?
No, I don't believe so.
So yeah, I feel like there's more to this than Miguel seems to think there is, and I really hope they flesh that out in the third one. That'd be very interesting, and I kind of feel like a decent part of the third one is going to take place on Earth 42, that messed up one that Miles ends up being in the end, which I think would be very cool
Hmm.
if they just explore different stuff. And yeah, so pretty cool. I kind of forgot to mention Gwen earlier, but she got a lot more screen time in the second one, and I was all for it. I thought it was very interesting. They definitely retcon some stuff seemingly from the first one. Like her dad looked completely different from the first movie. Like
Yeah.
and so did Peter. They made Peter look like the other Peters in that movie, whereas in this one he looked a lot skinnier and scrawnier, and he was voiced by Jack Quaid, which was kind of funny.
Mhm.
But yeah, I thought her universe looked really cool with all the art and stuff, but they really drew direct parallels to her and Miles, like having, as being very similar. Like they were
Mhm.
both people trying to do the right thing, but kind of trying to do it their own, their own way. But everyone in their life was trying to like control them.
Yeah.
Like freaking Jess. Oh my God. That's like one of the things I didn't care much for.
Yeah.
You
It
know,
was just kind of weird that she was pregnant, in my
I
opinion.
just can't stand when they cast black people. No, 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 no. I'm kidding. No, it's yeah, no. Like I couldn't care less about that so much. But yeah, that pregnancy thing was very random,
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm guessing they did it just to be like, pregnant women can be badass too. But it didn't really tie into the story at all. There was really
No,
no there just kind of wasn't much
no
reason
mention
for it.
it. Like
Yeah, like they
it was
mentioned it
just weird. It was
once.
just there.
Plus, it's supposed to be like months later between that first scene she's introduced and, when the rest of the movie takes place, and she still hasn't like grown much at all or like given birth. So it's like, what's going on with that baby? Is it just like in
Yeah.
stasis in her or something? But yeah, I didn't care much for her character. I kind of wish they'd done. I don't know. Like I would have preferred a more like comic accurate Jessica Drew. I
Hmm.
guess like I feel like they could have done that like regardless of if she was black or not. I'm not talking about that, but just like the random pregnancy, like was just kind of I wasn't a huge fan, and also she just kind of annoyed me. Like she seemed cool in at first in like her first scene, but when she was just constantly like writing Gwen and like nagging her, I wanted to like throttle her.
Yeah,
So
I
it was
agree.
like, oh my god, shut up, woman. Let Gwen do her thing, And she kind of just seemed to be like exactly like Miguel, but kind of more like she was very sanctimonious too, which annoyed me. I kind of hope she's a little more understanding in the second in the third movie, or at least just less annoying, I guess. No.
Right. I mean, that's one of the reasons why she seems to be Miguel's like number two,
Yeah,
is because she's kind of like him,
yeah,
but she has a bit more of a heart.
yeah. She does have a bit more of a heart. It's true. Which I really liked Miguel's action scenes. Like he was badass as hell, but
Oh man,
he's kind of a
Joey
dick.
Seymour.
No,
Oh yeah, 100%.
like
He's an
he's
asshole.
a raging, which is very different from the comics. But I don't care because it's an alternate universe version. And like all I really wanted to see is that he was really cool, which he was.
Hmm.
Um, I hope he kind of comes around in the next movie, and he's more of a heroic figure. But yeah, they have a very like authoritarian group going on
Hmm.
there, and he's like the main cause of it. So yeah, I kind of went into the movie like really like he was one of my most excited the things I was most excited to see in that movie, and I ended up leaving like, man, I kind of hate his guts. No, like
Yeah,
leave Miles alone, bro. Damn.
yeah.
It's but
I saw a theory that he is a part of the Inheritors, the people that want to
oh
be like take over Madam Web.
oh shit, that would be interesting
Because
because
that
that
is one
was
question I had, is like, why is my Miguel like the guy and not Madam Web?
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because the inheritors were like the main antagonists in the actual comic Spider Verse,
Hmm.
um, big event series. So I was kind of wondering, like at this point, it seems like it wouldn't make sense to introduce them in the third movie. Um, which now that I think about it, I feel like that could actually be a good fourth movie, is having the inheritors
Yeah,
be the main villains trying to hunt down and suck like the life out of spider people and sever them from like the web of life or whatever.
yeah,
But yeah, I'm trying to remember. I feel okay. Yeah, like very briefly, I thought Spider-Man India was actually a lot cooler than I was expecting. He was funny, and I ended up enjoying him a lot more than I
yeah,
expected going into it because I had like no expectations for him.
yeah.
And honestly, I like Spider Punk more than I expected. Going into it, I don't like. I thought Spider-Man and the Spider Punk in the comics was kind of stupid. Didn't much care for that character in the movie. The first few scenes I did not like him at all. I think
Yeah,
what won me over was that he was helping Miles, and he was like one of the only spider people that were like,
real.
well, yeah, and like fuck this weird like Illuminati Spider Verse thing,
Yeah,
and like he ended up leaving his watch behind for Gwen and stuff. So I was like, okay, he's actually pretty cool. I feel
yeah.
like
He had to grow on me too.
yeah, and like and they made him British for some reason. Like in the comics, I don't think he's not British, but I mean, like it kind of makes sense because of British and punk, though there was like American punk. I get it, but it was
Yeah, I
definitely it
agree.
was very hard to understand him for most of the movie.
Yeah,
I
yeah. And I think going back to Spider-Man India,
mm,
I I once again, he was cool. I would have rather had like someone else,
Mm-hmm.
but his design in the movie is way
Oh my
better than
god.
his comic design.
Like, I don't hate the comic design. Like, it's not like it's the worst thing ever, but it's not very inspired. It's just like
It's very boring.
Spider-Man on top with like generic Indian puffy pants below. You
Yeah,
know?
exactly. And they
Yeah.
really made him
His
unique and
suit's
special.
very like it's freaking pretty, you know? Like it's
Yeah, it is very bright.
yeah, and it's just got like a lot of really interesting designs to it, and yeah, I look forward to seeing because like I feel like they have a pretty damn cool team by the end of this. I think the only
Hmm.
person I would add would be like either Ben Riley or Kane.
Hmm.
Or like, well, that's the thing too, man. I wish Insomniac Spider-Man had been in it more. Like, I wish he had like
Oh,
more of a role.
that would have been so cool.
He was just an anomaly, and then he was like, "Oh, you talk about me?" And I was like, "Damn, I want more," you know.
Mm.
And like Spectacular Spider-Man was in it, you know, from the Spectacular Spider-Man series, and he actually got some lines, which was kind of cool. Um,
I didn't watch that show when I was a kid,
oh God, you
but I
didn't?
know
It's
everyone loves it.
I mean, it's definitely good. I somewhat grew up with it. For me, the Spider-Man show I grew up with was the '90s one, and
Yeah.
then when I was like 13 ish, well, no, it came out when I was about 10, the Spectacular Spider-Man show, and I did watch that. But at that point, it was probably like, you know, the third, fourth version of Spider-Man that I was
Yeah.
familiar with, which, whereas a lot of people, that was like their main introduction to Spider-Man, so of course it's going to be their favorite. Um, I did end up rewatching it before this movie, and it is a very good show, and it's one of those shows that's like so annoying it ends too early. You know,
Yeah.
like it ends without a definitive ending and it just got canceled. Freaking sucks.
I really liked Ultimate Spider-Man. I think
Mm.
Drake Bell does such an amazing job voicing him, and I love how that Spider-Man actually comes in contact and interacts with a lot of
Mm.
different characters, like Deadpool,
Yeah.
Taskmaster, I believe, is an episode.
Yeah, yeah. I watched that series too. It came out in like 2016. I
Hmm.
was I was older then, 2014, but yeah, I still watched it and like I definitely enjoyed it. Yeah, like
Hmm.
it's not like the best. And I think I went back and did watch some clips, and I don't think Drake Bell did as good as I remembered him doing. Like definitely has more of like a less effortless voice. Like it sounds like he's trying to sound younger, I feel like, compared to other versions. But like it's still fine. Like it doesn't deserve as much hate as it gets. And I do
I
like that
agree.
he's got, you know, like he has like like a team of heroes he's kind of like, you know, on board with like basically the defenders, you know. He got freaking
Yeah,
Power
pretty
Man
much.
and
Yeah.
Iron Fist and stuff, but and it was so weird because it's like they tried to connect it to the MCU but not really, because Clark Gregg is in it as Agent Coulson and he's like their school
Mhm.
principal, but then
Yeah.
everything else is different from the MCU, so I'm like, what the hell is going on? And I believe that, yeah, that series was the one where Donald Glover voiced Miles when
Yep.
Peter went to another.
Exactly.
Which, speaking
And
of
that's one of
Donald
the reasons why I
Glover,
just love it.
yeah, speaking of Donald Glover, freaking crazy. Like that was the cameo I was not expecting. When I saw that, I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, that was once again a jaw dropping
Yes.
thing, and
Oh.
I can't wait for Spider-Man 4.
Yeah, and
That's what that got me excited
oh
for.
yeah, exactly. I was like, he better show up as Prowler in Spider-Man 4, even just as like, you know, one of the villains he fights. But like, like they teased it in the first one, it needs to happen, you know.
Or maybe
Or
even if in the sixth one,
yeah.
if they want, if they plan on really doing a Cos trilogy, and at
Mm-hmm.
the end of that one is when he finally meets Miles, and part of it's like him training him, and then we get a Miles
Right.
trilogy.
Well, from what I did forget to mention this in the news section, but Amy Pascal, the producer and president or whatever of Sony, she
Hmm.
said that there is a live action Miles Spider-Man movie in the works. So if Donald Glover doesn't show up as Prowler in Spider-Man 4, he definitely has to in that live action Miles Morales movie.
Oh yeah, because I mean, I feel like judging by the cameo, he wants to do it. So
Yeah, you'd think. I mean, it was just a cameo, but I feel like who wouldn't want to play a badass villain, you know?
exactly, and that's the second time he's done it. So
Right, exactly. The
he's
first
all
time,
for it.
yeah, and like I gotta say, like that's a pretty cool suit for like them making it like a week.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
of course it looks a bit like cosplay, like in the light of day, and like,
yeah.
but like it looked great in the movie, so that's what matters.
I think the MCU probably would have just made it all like armor and kind
Yeah,
of like Iron Man. And I really
yeah,
like the more tactical military route they took.
yeah. That was very cool. I just want to see him with a mask now, with like the Prowler mask. That'd be pretty dope. But yeah, that was a very cool cameo. Lots of cool cameos. I don't know. I feel like we've covered pretty much everything in this movie,
Yeah.
without just talking about minute details to death.
Hmm.
But yeah, great. So yeah, in conclusion, you're wrong and like the first one more, and I'm right and like no, no, like I like it's one of those things where I feel like it's just like, they're so close to each other. I feel like you're right either way.
Yeah,
Like
it's kind of
whichever
just
one you like
what you
more, it's
prefer.
like they're both like freaking great. So
Mhm.
and like once the whole like hype factor where it wears off on me, I might like the first one more. um but I do just remember I wasn't like insanely impressed when the first one came out because everyone was acting like everyone hyped it up too much. So when I saw it, I'm like, yeah, that's good, but if I had cancer I wouldn't be cured right now. Like the way people were acting like it, so I think um maybe over time when I have more time to think about it, I might go back, just agree that the first one's better. I don't know. It's like saying like, do you like chocolate ice cream or a chocolate, like a
Yeah, exactly.
chocolate bar more? It's like depends on my mood, like they're both awesome. They're both chocolate. They're both delicious.
I
But
mean, I will say this about the second one.
mm,
It's got like one of the dopest one-liners ever when Miles says, "Nah, I'm gonna do my own
yeah,
thing."
I know. Let's
That was
which
so cool. That was so cool.
Oh, and it works so well in context because I know some people were thinking like, "Oh, that's kind of cringe" when it was in the trailer, but like within the like it really earns that line. When he
Hmm.
says it, you're like, "Yes, Miles, fuck them," like
Yeah,
do
I'm
your
ready
own
to go.
thing.
I will fight
Yeah,
for you.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's so good. But yeah, that was our episode. Thanks so much for being on my podcast, bro.
Oh, anytime.
I always enjoy talking Spider-Man stuff with you. Like I know
Oh,
our
for sure.
I know our other friends like Spider-Man, but I feel like we've got a special bond when it comes to
I
Spider-Man.
agree.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
agree.
All right, man.